Welcome back to part 2 of this my presentation titled What is Marriage? Another Perspective, the Mystic Philosopher. As promised in part 1, here in part 2 I will be delving much deeper into the meanings and definitions of the words marriage and institution as I continue to answer the question, what is marriage, and share some of my perspective and insight on the institution of marriage. Now, for most people who know the Mystic Philosopher, those who know me, or those who may have watched some or all of my YouTube videos, or those of you who have attended any of my lectures and seminars, or those of you that may have met me in person and we talk on a one-on-one basis, you will agree that I have always admitted to the fact that I am not English. That English is not my ancestry. Nor am I in any way an English wannabe. I have admitted and will continue to admit that the English language is not my language. It is not the language, the English language is not my natural native earthly human tongue. That the English language is my ancestors' slave masters and their heirs and successors' language. That my ancestors, I've admitted that my ancestors and their descendants were taught the slave masters' English language. Were not taught the slave masters, the official slave masters' English language. But that instead they were taught only a bastardized version of the English language. And I have admitted and will continue to admit that I do not know or understand the English language that well. And that the closest that I think, I the Mystic Philosopher think that I can or that I will ever get or come to knowing or having an understanding or insight into the English language and the English people themselves is through my frequent use and reference to their dictionaries. Therefore, if or when I am discussing a subject, or if or when I need to know the meanings and the definitions of an English word, the place I go to first, of course, is to the English dictionaries. I'm not ashamed of popping out my dictionaries or even asking someone the meaning of the words. So that's the place I'll go to first. And it so happened that through the use of modern technology, the internet, I don't even have to walk around with my dictionary, like my pocket dictionary as I used to do before. I don't have to walk around with that anymore, or even try to tax my brain, my mind with unnecessary clutters or clusters of words, and by trying to memorize words and becoming a walking dictionary or like a walking encyclopedia. But I just have to pull out my little cell phone. And right here on my cell phone, all I need to do is just Google the word, and the meanings and definitions are right there, or will be there. Now, I think that even though it is arguably a person's human right to be dumb and stupid today, it's arguably a person's human right to remain dumb and stupid today, and even to remain ignorant in today's world. It is not, from my perspective, it is not compulsory. It is not mandatory. that one should or one has to exercise that right when so much knowledge and information is at our disposal and can be easily accessed. So the first question that I asked the Reverend Doctor and Pastor was, could you please define the English words marriage and institution for me? Why I asked these questions? Well, one, because I just wanted to know and to be sure that we were thinking and talking about the same thing in the English language. And as I have said before, he did not answer any of my questions. I honestly think that he ignored my question or my questions because he heard my name, the Mystic Philosopher. And possible, he may have thought that, it's possible that he may have thought that I was being mischievous. If he had thought that I am, or that I might be a thought-provocative person, or that my questions were thought provocative, then yes, I am, and yes, my questions are, and that I will not hesitate to admit. But mischievous, definitely not. I don't have time to waste on trying to be mischievous. So I had to again resort to my old-fashioned way of learning and finding out things for myself. So what is marriage, or what is the meaning of the English word marriage? I have already answered the question earlier by stating clearly and emphatically that marriage is a business, or from my perspective, marriage is a business. It is a very serious activity. Therefore, the rest of this presentation is just to affirm to you the fact that marriage is a business, and why I, the Mystic Philosopher, think it is a business by starting with the meaning of the word marriage, the meaning and definition of the word marriage from the English dictionary. I will start by giving what I call the conjugal definition of the word marriage from the Living Webster's Encyclopedic Dictionary of the English language. And I quote, marriage, the social institution by which a man and a woman are legally united and establish a new family unit, unquote. The word marriage, again from dictionary.com, as I said, you can easily Google it with your cell phone. Most people have that option. So from dictionary.com gives 5 definitions. Number 1, marriage, a legally, religiously, or socially sanctioned union of persons who commit to one another, forming a familial and economic bond. Anthropologists say that some type of marriage has been found in every society, past and present. Definition 2, marriage, or 2a. Definition 2 has A and B. 2a. Marriage, the social institution under which a man and woman establish their decision to live as husband and wife by legal commitments, religious commitments, etc. Marriage, 2b, a social institution involving partners of the same gender, as in gay marriage, same-sex marriage. Definition 3, marriage, the state, condition, or relationship of being married, wedlock. Comment here, they have a happy marriage. That is, for example, how the word is being used. Synonyms, which is similar words, are matrimony. And antonyms, which are words that are opposite to marriage, are single life, bachelorhood, spinsterhood, and singleness. Definition number 4, marriage. The legal or religious ceremony that formalizes the decision of two people to live as married couple, including the accompanying social festivities to officiate at a marriage. And the synonyms are nuptials, as in prenuptials, and marriage ceremony, wedding, and the antonym, again the opposite, are divorce and annulment. And definition 5 from dictionary.com of marriage: a relationship in which two people have pledged themselves to each other in the manner of a husband and wife without legal sanction, also known as a trial marriage, unquote. That's the definition of marriage from dictionary.com. I would ask that if you're following, listening, and you have, of course, no doubt you have access to the internet, or else you wouldn't be listening here, just Google marriage and you can follow me, because English is not my language, I'm not as fluent in the language, and some of the words might not be pronounced properly. However, if you as English people read it yourself, then you can follow me and see my interpretation. I'll appreciate that. Now, let me now break it down and interpret each of these individual definitions from dictionary.com. Let me interpret them for you, make it a little bit plainer, or give you from my perspective. Marriage, number 1. Marriage as a legal sanction. You may notice that, I like to deal with details here. Let me just go back a bit. You may notice from the definition, the first definition, like number 1, you have marriage, a legal, religious, or social sanction. So it could be a legally, religiously, or socially. So the comma. So I'm going to be dealing with the first one, legally. Marriage, a legally sanctioned union of persons who commit one to another. Now, for your information, the word sanctioned means a formal approval or a formal consent by those in authority. So if a person is not in authority, you can't sanction something. And the word union means the act of joining two or more things into one whole, and the state of being joined. And the question to you, my friends, who has the power, who has the authority on earth to give this sanction and this formal approval or this formal consent, in order that two or more consenting people, adults, may be joined together and may call themselves legally married? Who has the power and the authority to make you legally married? It is, of course, the government. And to the contrary of what the Reverend Doctor and Pastor have said, and I quote, marriage is not the government's business, unquote. Marriage is the government's business. Or to be more specific, legal marriage is the government's business. legal marriage is not God's business unless one considers the government to be one's God representative. Unless the government is just standing in for God, then, you will say, well, then legal marriage is God's business. Now, please note that it is not the pastors who perform marriages or the marriage ceremonies that make a marriage or the marriage couple legally married. Pastors are just acting as civil servants, or as agents of the government employees, if you will, as a witness to the signing of a business contract. A marriage contract is a business contract between two people. Something else that I must point out here is that the word union means to join, or rather it means the act of joining two or more things into one whole or into one unit. Example, a family. Therefore, the government can, and I predict that it will someday, and someday that is not too far into the distant future, that the government will give permission that 3 or more people can and will be legally married in Canada, and not just 2 as it stands now. In other words, we will be able to start a family business. A family to start a business, because a family is a business. We will be able to start a business with more than just 2 people. The second part of section 1 definition is forming a familial and economic bond. The word familial means of or pertaining to or characteristics of a family. Familial or family ties, familial ties. The word economic means pertaining to the production, distribution, and use of income, wealth, and commodities. And the word bond means, of course, I said before, to bind together, to join together. So what then is the purpose of a marriage as defined here in definition 1? And again, I ask you to follow me on the definition from the dictionary by reading it. I don't have the way of doing it now, so I could put it up on this screen, and you don't have to refer to the dictionary, so you could work with me. But I'm sure you will be able to just Google and bring up the meaning and follow me and see if I'm erring and point it out for me. I'll be more than happy. So what then is the purpose of marriage as defined here? It is all about economics, meaning marriage is pertaining to the production, distribution, and use of income, wealth, and commodities. It's all about, as some people sing, it's all about the money, money, money. For your information, here in definition 1, and sorry to disappoint some of you, but love got nothing to do with it. Unless it is the love of money. It is the love of wealth. Unless it is the love of money and the distribution of wealth you're thinking and are talking about. So don't get it confused. The moderator quoted a Statistics Canada report that talked about the decline of marriage couples and the increase of single parenting in Canada. Here is a brief quote from the report that I also read online. It said married couples are in a long-term decline. Single parenting has risen persistently and families have gradually shrunk, unquote. Now, from my perspective, the reason why married couples are in a long-term decline and single parenting has risen persistently is not because, or not primarily because of a moral breakdown in society, as some religious people and others and other proponents of this ideology, this thought, are contending. But it can be seen as multiple fold. First, and as I've said before, people have become and people are becoming far more aware of the fact that marriage, any form of marriage, is a business corporation, and a very serious business, a very serious one. And that they have to do their due diligence and weigh all the pros and cons in their best efforts at avoiding disaster before they enter into a business partnership relationship. Second, finding a serious, compatible business partner, and especially if you are a woman, is very difficult. Not to mention the fact that legally the system only allows marrying to one person at a time. I also think this is one of the main reasons why, according to the Statistics Canada report, single parenting has risen persistently. Some might find it interesting to learn that single parenting is not generally looked upon by society as a real family. Sometimes they are not even called a family or referred to as a family, but as a single parenting household, as a one person household, etc. But in the strictest sense, it is not commonly referred to as a real family or as a nuclear family or that of the nuclear family in the eyes of many. In fact, some single parent families are even being outright discriminated against. From my perspective, a single parenting family or a single household is the same as a sole proprietorship business, and a nuclear family is a corporation. And most people will agree, and the facts will also show, that there are much more advantages to owning and being part of a business that is a corporation than that of a sole proprietorship business. Something else about single household and single parenting families that the moderator didn't mention and the report that I've read did not cover, and that is the economic, the emotional, the financial hardship, and all other forms of stresses, fatigue, and sufferings that some, if not all, of these single parenting or single people are experiencing, single household are experiencing. It is just like a sole proprietorship business where all of the administrative burdens and the survival of the business are on one person's shoulders or one person's head. However, in a corporation, as in a real marriage, the stresses, the burdens, the responsibilities, as well as the gains are shared equally. And that is why I tell my people, if they can find the right business partner, having done your due diligence, the right business partner who knows and who truly understands that Marriage is a business, and a very serious business occupation. And if they understand all the risk and potential gains and are prepared to go for it, that is when I encourage them to go ahead and sign the agreement. Sign the agreement and make it legal. For as my mom, my late mom, used to say, she used to say, one hand can't clap. One hand can't clap. It's difficult for one person to say starting a business or as the same as starting a family. One hand can't clap. It's difficult. Short nature, you don't see that happening. It's rare. And she also said, one can chase 1,000, but two can put 10,000 to flight, which is a quote from her favorite book, the Bible. That's what she grew up with. I read it too. It makes sense. One shall chase 1,000, and two shall put 10,000 to flight. So remember, one hand can't clap. So if one person is out there trying to build a business, just about anything can take you down. Anyway, more on that at another time. The wise man Solomon also said, the wisest man Solomon tells us in the book of Ecclesiastes 4 and 9, or rather Ecclesiastes chapter 4, 9 to verse 12. And I quote, he said, two are better off than one, because together they can work more effectively. He continued, he said, if one of them falls down, the other can help him up. But if someone is alone and falls, it is just too bad, because there is no one to help him. He said, if it is cold, two can sleep together and stay warm. But how can you keep warm by yourself? Two people can resist an attack and would defeat one person alone. And he continued, a rope made of 3 cords is hard to break. Unquote. I just read from the Good News version, or the Good News translation of the Christian Holy Bible. This makes sense. So don't try clap it on your own. Now please note that from my perspective, these practical advice by my late mom, and of course the wisest man, or the wise man Solomon, as people say, have nothing to do with the elusive dream state or the fantasy love marriage, the Prince Charming and happy ever after European fairy tale marriage that a lot of people, especially some Christians, are dreaming, praying, searching, and hoping for. This has nothing to do with that. It's an illusion. Those things are fantasy. You watch it on television, you name the various programs. Marriage is a business that no doubt will have its fair share of pains. And as the saying goes, if there is no pain, then why would you be expecting